Bonjour! My name is Michaela Tobin and I am a political science and international affairs student at Northeastern. I spent the spring semester of my sophomore year abroad with API in Paris, France. I chose to go abroad because I love to travel and experience new cultures, and I thought study abroad seemed like a great way to do both these things. I previously studied abroad in Greece, and since I came home, I had always wanted to return to Europe. I chose this program with API specifically because I am a French minor and wanted to improve my language skills. I knew the best way to do this would be by living in France and totally immersing myself in French culture. My typical day in Paris begins at 7 a.m. every morning when I wake up in my apartment in the 15th arrondissement of the city, where I live with 3 other American students, and begin to get ready for class. To get to class and pretty much everywhere else, I take the metro. My classes are at the Foundation Robert Sorbonne, where I have a French grammar class every day for 2 hours and a phonetics class every day every other week. The rest of my classes are held in a separate building down the street. Here, I have 3 2-hour elective courses once a week. This semester, I took a class on French politics, French culture, and French writers. All of my classes are completely in French, taught by French professors of the Sorbonne. In the majority of my classes, I was the only American, so it was necessary for me to speak French to my classmates if I wanted to communicate. All of the students at my school were international students. Some were there for study abroad like me, while others were older adults who had enrolled just to practice their foreign language. It was interesting to be in a classroom full of so many different people with so many different cultural backgrounds. My classroom space also included the many museums of Paris, as well as the city space itself, as I was constantly observing French culture and was practicing my French in everyday situations in places like shops, restaurants, markets, or just on the streets when people asked me for directions. Every day after class, I took the time to explore different areas of the city. Some days I would go to museums or just walk around different neighborhoods. My favorite thing to do was to sit in a cute cafe and people watch or read my book. I also liked to go see some of the famous sites in Paris, such as the Tour Eiffel, the Arc de Triomphe, the Champs-Élysées, or the Luxembourg Gardens. The Eiffel Tower was within walking distance from my apartment, and the Luxembourg Gardens were right by my school, so I visited these 2 places the most. When I came home from exploring, I usually made dinner for myself in my apartment. My program provided me with 70 euros a month for groceries from the supermarket near my apartment. The food in France was very different from the food in the United States because the produce is more fresh and contains less preservatives. I was surprised to find that the milk in stores was not refrigerated. I was also surprised by how crowded the market was at night. Cooking at home is very popular in France, and the food in the stores was very cheap compared to the food in the United States. Personally, I did not find life in Paris very difficult to adapt to. Life was definitely different, but I did not find myself experiencing large amounts of culture shock. However, it was a little hard to get used to the way French classrooms were run. It is common for teachers in France to correct students' mistakes in front of the whole class. Grades are not confidential like they are in the US, and my teacher would sometimes announce our grades after exams. The grading system is also different, as exams are graded on a 20-point scale rather than a 100-point scale. My classes were difficult because the final exams determined the final grade rather than many tests throughout the year. On weekends after dinner, when we weren't traveling, my roommates and I would go out, sometimes for drinks or sometimes just to walk along the Seine and see Paris beautifully lit up at night. School was really challenging, but I learned a lot, and my French improved immensely after 4 months compared to when I first arrived. I learned a lot from the excursions held by API. With my program, I was able to explore several different areas of France, like the Loire Valley, Provence, and Rouen. I liked these excursions because they gave me the opportunity to really see France and learn about what life was like in cities other than Paris. I was also able to travel during the 2 weeks I had for spring break in April. During this time, my mom and my grandmother visited me in Paris, and then all of us went to Italy. We stayed in Venice and Naples, and after returning to Paris, I met up with my roommates in Geneva, Switzerland. Before I got to France, I did not really know what to expect. I thought that it would be similar to the NU in Greece program, but API's program was much, much smaller. I did not expect that I would end up feeling so at home in France, or that I would fall so in love with the city of Paris. When my program ended, I didn't want to leave. I am so happy that I studied in Paris, because I don't think I would have been able to learn as much French as I did if I had stayed in the United States. I really think the only way to truly learn a foreign language is to actually live where it is spoken. I was surprised at how quickly I noticed my French skills improving just from hearing it every day. This experience was definitely useful for my French minor, and hopefully one day I will be able to come back to France for co-op or work. Study abroad is so important because I believe the only way to learn about the world is to see it. You can't learn in books what you can learn from actually experiencing a culture. Study abroad teaches you that the way of life you grew up with is not the only way of life that exists. Northeastern makes it really easy for most majors to study abroad, and I would definitely recommend doing it because it really is the experience of a lifetime.